Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit Chiron conjunct one's natal Chiron. Now, when you have transits that involve Chiron, they can be about physical and emotional wounds, suffering, anguish, helping and healing. It could be when you have this transit, of course, you're in. Well, in most cases, it's the Chiron return. I'll elaborate on that momentarily. But and when this is generally going to be, the most intense part of the Chiron return, and it's very obviously when you have conjunctions, it is intensification of energy. It's strong integration. And what I want to elaborate on is the fact that in most cases it is. So you're wondering, well, why is it in most cases? Isn't it always the Chiron return? If transit Chiron is conjunct your natal Chiron, well, not necessarily, because depending on the signs that they're in, you could have a conjunction from transit Chiron to your natal Chiron. They could be in two different signs. That technically would not be considered the Chiron return because it's not in the same sign. Now, let's say, for example, you have the Chiron at 0 degrees, your natal Chiron is 0 degrees Cancer. Transit Chiron, say, is at 29 degrees Gemini. That would be in a different sign. You still might feel certain effects. There might be some intensification of wounds, or trying to actually heal your own at this time, but it still not, wouldn't be considered. As far as technically the Chiron. And now, when you have the transit Chiron conjoining your natal Chiron, it can be about, again, those physical, emotional wounds, helping and healing. It could be suffering, and it might be matters connected with where you might feel some ineptitude in, or there's some lack, where you don't, an area in life where you feel like you're not exactly flourishing in. It could be an opportunity to heal those wounds, but it might in some cases exacerbate them, because remember, Chiron can it can manifest in actually inflicting them. And if you're having the transit of Chiron, which can be about suffering, hitting that point in your chart which is associated with it, sometimes it might add more to it. Remember that conjunctions in astrology are neutral. They can have good and bad aspects to them. And a lot of it, whether it manifests more positively or negatively, can be predicated and dependent on the aspects it makes to other points in your natal chart. Now, another thing is, let's say this is also, Chiron is connected with diminished self-esteem and self-worth. So again, it can be a chance for you. It could be opportunity to actually do something about this, maybe heal those issues where you have this. If it's in Aries, which at the time of this video, of course, the current transit is Chiron in Aries, and many people may be having this as their Chiron return. The Chiron return is occurs like every 50 or 51 years, so most people will just get one in during their life. Now, the thing about it is, it can be, again, about issue. It might be, it may manifest in doing things to help yourself with that self-esteem. And remember, the Chiron in Aries can be about, feelings. It might be feelings of not feeling worthy enough, or some worthlessness. And it might be an opportunity to try to an attempt to heal those wounds, that suffering connected with that. It can be issues over, like, say, again, going to Aries as the example, maybe being overly impulsive. I have this in my 12th house, which could indicate that impulsive energy could very well be the self undoing, and also tied in with secret sorrows. Uh, and I'm actually, it's funny, at the time I'm making this video, it's actually the transit of Chiron is very close. I believe it's almost exactly conjunct my own natal Chiron at this time, ironically enough. And I'm going through my Chiron return right now. Now, it could also be, sometimes it can be physical wounds. If there's something that's been going on for some time, and it's been prolonged or protracted physical suffering, If it's in Taurus, say, it could be some issues with the esophagus or throat or neck or thyroid. It might be, maybe some lump you've had in your, in the throat or something, and you're trying to, and maybe you procrastinated on doing something with it, and it's a time where where you may actually take more action. When you have this transit, it also can be expressed in some cases as really being more cognizant and having the revelation of what actually maybe has caused certain suffering and actually being able to do something about it. It could also be at this time as well. You look at this, and again, it can be a good time to perhaps heal your own existing wounds and suffering, perhaps those of others as well at this time. And Chiron, remember, is also the key. So it can be that time when you might find the key to actually doing something to alleviate your own suffering and perhaps those of others. I mean, if it's an Aquarius, for example, it might be through some kind of altruism or selflessness or being able to innovate and do or something with astrology or astronomy. It might be something that might actually be very beneficial to you and maybe be some key to attempt to eradicate any kind of emotional suffering that you may be going through. Now, again, going back to the example in Aries, and like I have this in the 12th house of my natal chart. So, for example, if somebody's having this transit in Aries in their 12th house, it might be a time where one might become more cognizant of being able to take care of some suffering. It might be by combating or taking aggressive action, which is Aries, in combating, not necessarily physically, but confronting perhaps those hidden adversaries, which is the 12th house. Hidden adversaries could mean people that are impersonating friends, but are really not. They might just be using a person as an example, and it's an opportunity to heal any kind of anguish, but sometimes again it can worsen or exacerbate anguish or any emotional turmoil you may be going through in connection with the placement. Now, another example, let's say if it's in Taurus in the 4th house in the natal chart, it might be maybe some it may be again, it can worsen existing anguish. So again, if it falls in Taurus in the 4th house in natal chart, it might be maybe causing more unrest in attempting to have a stable or tranquil or peaceful home life. But again, it could also be a chance to actually do something beneficial for that. And the thing is, and it might also be an intensified healing and helping of other people at this time. Now, let's say it's another example. If this falls in Gemini in the 9th house in the natal chart, it can be by doing maybe encouraging others to have more diversification in their beliefs, have more manifold or variety of beliefs, and be more open-minded to others' opinions and philosophies, or taking manifold college courses, being able to kind of spread out, have more variety in terms of the beliefs at this time, and be open-minded to others' opinions and philosophies. It could be maybe there's some cases this could be becoming more cognizant and aware of maybe a latent or some kind of dormant or talent or some kind of ability that you may have had. Say if this falls in Pisces in the 5th house as an example, maybe there's some ability being proficient, perhaps in maybe creating hypothetical, which is Pisces, in sports, which is the 5th house matchups, or the construction and creation of fantasy board games. Fantasy, of course, is associated with Pisces. The 5th house is associated with games, and remember, 5th house is also connected with fun, amusement, and enjoyment, so it would be something that would likely be very enjoyable for you. I do believe 5th house placements can actually be a lot of times really good, because whatever is in there could often manifest in what one may revel in and what one may really enjoy. Now, It can have, now let's say in some isolated case, it could be a physical or mental disorder, may have a greater opportunity to be healed, or at least some cases it may escalate in it, but it can be it can be an opportunity to actually take care of it at this time and try to alleviate the suffering in connection with it. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, another thing is, um, if it's something like, say, if it's in, Gemini, it could be something with carpal tunnel syndrome, some with the hands, the arms, the shoulders. It could be some breathing issue or something with the lungs that may be a chance to actually take care of. If it's something, again, with the nerves, it might be having, taking more action with it, using like some kind of ultrasound or muscle stimulation as an example, to try to at least alleviate the problem. Now, the thing is, and also too, let's say this falls in Aquarius in the 10th house as another example. It could be using, maybe doing something with astrology, astronomy, innovation, computers, electronics as a career, in order in order to perhaps help yourself in making maybe that discovery in order to do so. Remember, this can be, might be some kind of dormant or latent ability or something that you were actually proficient in, that becomes, where there's more awareness and you become more cognizant of it at this time, which could be very auspicious for you. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.